Welcome back to Backstage Melody. It sounded like just another love song, catchy, smooth, irresistible. But behind the glitter of Toto's Grammy-winning hit Rosanna, there was a question that's never truly been answered. Who was she? For decades, fans, journalists, and even the band's own members have danced around the truth. Was it a real woman, a famous actress, or just a name that sounded good in a chorus? What if the story behind one of the biggest songs of the 80s isn't as simple as we thought? The song that dominated the 80s. In 1982, Toto unleashed a track that would go on to define both their legacy and the sound of early 80s rock. Rosanna, the bold and groove-heavy opening song from their fourth studio album, Toto IV, wasn't just a hit. It was a cultural event. It had everything: a silky-smooth intro, soaring melodies, complex musicianship, and a chorus you couldn't forget even if you tried. Right out of the gate, Rosanna had that magic combination of radio-friendly charm and musical depth. It wasn't background noise, it demanded your attention. At over 5 minutes long, it defied the pop standard, yet it still shot up the charts, peaking at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and holding that spot for an impressive 5 weeks. It was only kept from the top spot by Survivor's Eye of the Tiger, another giant of the era. But Rosanna didn't just chart, it conquered. The track helped Toto IV win 6 Grammy Awards, including Record of the Year, Album of the Year, and Best Instrumental Arrangement with Vocal. For a band that was often seen as session musicians turned rock stars, this was their ultimate flex. It proved they weren't just playing behind the scenes anymore, they were the scene. Behind the success was a group of virtuosos: Steve Lukather on guitar, the Porcaro brothers, Jeff, Steve, and Mike, holding down drums, keys, and bass, and David Paich, the band's co-founder, serving as their creative heartbeat. And with Bobby Kimball delivering those unforgettable vocals, the song became a perfect storm of talent and timing. But what really made Rosanna stick wasn't just the musical genius behind it. It was the name, a name that felt intimate, specific. It made people wonder, who is Rosanna? And why does this heartbreak feel so real? As fans turned the song up on radios and mixtapes, they weren't just singing along, they were asking questions. Questions that would follow the band for decades. And that's where the mystery begins. As Rosanna dominated the airwaves, fans couldn't help but ask, who is this Rosanna? The lyrics dripped with emotion, longing, regret, and a haunting sense of unfinished love. But it wasn't just the song's content that got people speculating. It was timing, and timing in this case looked suspiciously like a real-life love story hiding in plain sight. At the time the song was released, Toto's keyboardist Steve Porcaro was romantically involved with a rising actress named Rosanna Arquette. She wasn't a household name yet, but she was clearly on her way, earning critical acclaim for her role in The Executioner's song, and just a few years away from starring in cult classics like Desperately Seeking Susan and After Hours. Her name was distinctive, glamorous, and carried a kind of cinematic charm that matched the lush production of the song. Add to that her real relationship with a member of the band, and suddenly, the dots connected themselves, at least in the public's imagination. The media had a field day. Headlines hinted at an intimate, heartfelt tribute. Radio DJs introduced the song as Steve Porcaro's love letter to Rosanna Arquette. Fans repeated the rumor like gospel. The idea was too perfect to ignore, and Arquette herself didn't exactly shut it down. In interviews over the years, she admitted that even she believed, at least for a while, that the song was about her. She said, "I thought it was really sweet. I didn't know the truth at the time, but it was flattering." But here's where the story takes a twist that most fans didn't see coming. Despite all the buzz, all the headlines, and all the love song assumptions, it wasn't Steve Porcaro who wrote the song. In fact, he had nothing to do with writing Rosanna. The real writer, David Paich, Toto's founding keyboardist and principal composer. And his reasons for choosing the name had almost nothing to do with Steve's real-life relationship. It was a coincidence that became a media storm, and the woman who had seemingly inspired one of the biggest hits of the decade, she was just as surprised as the rest of us. But if Rosanna Arquette wasn't the muse, why did the name feel so personal? The real songwriter speaks up. For years, everyone assumed the song Rosanna was written by Steve Porcaro as a grand romantic gesture for his girlfriend, Rosanna Arquette. It made sense on paper, the name matched, the timing lined up. And it wouldn't be the first time a rock musician had immortalized a lover in song. But behind the scenes, something didn't quite add up. The truth came out quietly, almost too quietly, when the band clarified that Steve Porcaro wasn't the song's author at all. The real mind behind Rosanna was David Paich, Toto's co-founder and musical architect. While Steve was indeed dating Arquette, it was Paich who sat at the piano, wrote the lyrics, and composed the music. So, why the name? David Paich explained it in a way that only musicians really can. He said that while he had always admired Rosanna Arquette from afar, calling her beautiful, charismatic, and often around the band due to her relationship with Steve, it wasn't a song about her. Instead, the name Rosanna simply fit the rhythm and melody of the song he was writing at the time. It rolled off the tongue. It had that perfect musical bounce. It wasn't calculated, it just worked. And the emotion behind the lyrics, that didn't come from Rosanna Arquette. Paich described the track as a composite of all the women he had ever loved and lost. He poured years of romantic heartbreak and nostalgia into that one composition. The yearning in the chorus, that was his, the ache in the verses, drawn from his own experiences, not Steve's and not Arquette's. He later said in an interview, "I just started writing the lyrics and the name Rosanna fit. It felt right. I had a little crush on her, sure, but the song wasn't meant to be her story. It was mine." It's the kind of subtle detail that often gets buried beneath headline rumors, but it makes all the difference. Rosanna wasn't a dedication. It was a coincidence wrapped in melody, a personal story disguised by a very public name. And yet, as we'll see next, the band didn't exactly rush to set the record straight. The band fanned the flames. By the time the rumors reached their peak, Toto had a choice: clear things up or let the legend grow. And they chose the latter. Instead of issuing a simple statement that explained the song wasn't about Rosanna Arquette, the band leaned into the speculation with a mischievous grin. In interviews, they offered conflicting and often cryptic answers. Drummer Jeff Porcaro once quipped, "It was about one girl, but written by another guy." Guitarist Steve Lukather, always the joker of the group, added fuel to the fire by saying, "It was about everybody's girlfriend at the time." Everyone laughed, and no one really clarified anything. This ambiguity wasn't accidental. It was brilliant marketing. The band understood something vital about pop culture: mystery sells. By keeping the true story behind Rosanna murky, they allowed fans to project their own meaning onto the song. For romantics, it was a heartfelt ballad for a real woman. For gossip lovers, it was a behind-the-scenes rock and roll love triangle. And for musicians, it was a technical masterpiece that just happened to be wrapped in one of the decade's most compelling rumors. Toto became masters at blending technical prowess with emotional mystique. They weren't flashy rock stars throwing TVs out of hotel windows. They were elite studio musicians who let their work speak louder than their egos. But this time, they found themselves with a hit so big and a rumor so juicy, they couldn't resist letting it simmer. Even the band's official website didn't offer much clarity. For years, the song's backstory remained vague, as if they were in on a joke they had no intention of explaining. And the public ate it up. The myth became part of the music. And all the while, Rosanna Arquette's name stayed in the spotlight, whether she asked for it or not. But what did she really think about being linked to one of the most iconic love songs of all time? Let's hear it straight from her. For most people, having a chart-topping love song named after you might seem like a dream. But for Rosanna Arquette, it was always more complicated than that. At first, she embraced the spotlight with grace and a bit of humor. The idea that one of the biggest songs of the 80s could be about her was flattering, especially when it was performed by one of the most respected bands of the era. "It's a great song," she said in an interview. "I didn't mind the rumor, it was sweet." But behind her smile, there was always a lingering sense of awkwardness. Over the years, Arquette revealed that no one from the band had actually told her the song was about her, because, as it turned out, it wasn't. She admitted with a touch of self-deprecating laughter that even she believed the rumor at first. "I thought it was about me. Turns out, not so much." Eventually, the band clarified to her privately that David Paich had simply borrowed her name. It wasn't personal, and the lyrics weren't based on their relationship. She wasn't the broken-hearted woman in the song. She was the inspiration for a name that just happened to fit the rhythm and melody perfectly. Still, Arquette handled it all with humility. She didn't lash out or correct the press aggressively. She allowed the myth to live on, knowing that it was bigger than her. "People will believe what they want to believe," she once said. "It's not my song, I'm just lucky enough to be part of its story." Yet over time, the endless questions began to wear thin. Decades later, she confessed that being forever tied to the song, despite it not truly being about her, felt strange. "It kinda took on a life of its own," she said, "and I became the face of something that wasn't actually mine." Even so, Rosanna Arquette remained gracious. She understood the power of pop culture and how stories, true or not, can take root and grow beyond anyone's control. And as listeners kept digging into the lyrics, searching for hidden meaning, something became clear. This wasn't your average love song. Breaking down the lyrics, Rosanna isn't just catchy, it feels intimate. From the very first line, it pulls listeners into a story of heartbreak and yearning. "All I want to do when I wake up in the morning is see your eyes." There's no metaphor, no abstraction. It's direct, emotional, real. For decades, fans pored over these lyrics like detectives, trying to figure out if there was something deeper hidden beneath the groove. Lines like, "Not quite a year since she went away, Rosanna, yeah," suggested a very specific kind of pain, fresh, raw, and unresolved. It wasn't just a sad song. It sounded like someone had lived through it. And because of that emotional clarity, many listeners felt it had to be about someone real, someone the band knew, someone the songwriter still missed. But when you step back and study the lyrics without the media noise, something becomes clear. The song isn't laced with personal details. There are no references to specific moments, memories, or shared experiences. Nothing that screams Rosanna Arquette. No nods to her life, her career, or her personality. Instead, Rosanna reads like a universal heartbreak, a collage of feelings that anyone who's lost a love could relate to. The sense of confusion, the longing to turn back time, the helplessness of watching someone walk away, it's all there. But it's not grounded in who left. It's grounded in what it felt like. Even David Paich admitted this later, saying that the song wasn't about one woman. It was about the collective weight of love and loss. Rosanna was a name that fit the music, but the story belonged to countless others. And ironically, that's exactly what made the song powerful. Because even if you weren't Rosanna, you knew a Rosanna. You missed Rosanna. You were someone's Rosanna. But just when it seemed like the mystery had been solved, David Paich revealed one final truth that flipped the narrative once more. After years of speculation, interviews, and playful misdirection, David Paich finally gave fans a straight answer, or at least as close to one as he ever would. In a later interview, he confessed that, yes, the name Rosanna was inspired by Rosanna Arquette. He had a crush on her. She was around the studio a lot. And when the melody came to him, her name just naturally fit. But, and this is where things got messy again, he was quick to clarify that while the name came from real life, the emotion behind the song didn't. The heartbreak, the regret, the longing, all of that came from his own personal experiences with other women. Women who had left the marks on his heart long before Rosanna Arquette ever entered the picture. In Paich's own words, "I was thinking of a few girls I had known and lost. Rosanna just had the right number of syllables and that soft A sound that made the chorus lift." So in a twist of poetic irony, the name was real, but the story wasn't. Or rather, it was real, just not hers. This blurred line between truth and myth became the secret ingredient of the song's power. Fans weren't just hearing a breakup, they were hearing a mystery, a riddle with just enough truth to keep them guessing. And as the years passed, one thing became certain. Whether the song was about her or not, Rosanna Arquette would always be part of rock history. So, who was Rosanna? The truth is, she was never just one person. She was a name, a feeling, a story set to music. And that's why the song still holds up, because it speaks to something we all know, the ache of a lost love, the what if that never left. Whether you believed it was about Rosanna Arquette or not, that mystery only added to the legend. Toto knew exactly what they were doing, blending fact, fiction, and melody into a timeless classic. If you loved uncovering this story, don't forget to subscribe to Backstage Melody, where the biggest hits always have something hiding between the lines.